Good evening. With us is the most famously obscure, almost elected vice president since James Stockdale in 1992. You may know her as the disaster from Alaska, Caribou Barbie, and the Russian seer. We welcome the half-term governor of Alaska, Sarah Palin.
Thank you, Barry, for having me here today on this wonderful American Day of Christianity, flags, and dogs, too. It's an honor to be in the studio of someone so old, yet so ancient.
In a little more than a year for you, but what seems like an eternity to me, you've gone from the governor of Alaska, to the vice presidential candidate of the Republican Party, to the queen of Facebook. Which of these colossal, personal and professional failures make you most proud?
Derry, failure is just another word for doing things my way, at my time, when it's good for me. And each failure has become more profitable financially and politically. My personal and professional failures have allowed me to write a best-selling book that they tell me is good to read. I believe it's called Going Roger, or something like that. I recommend that everyone read, if they can.
The rumors are already flying that you plan to run for president in 2012. Have you made a decision, or do you plan to milk this book tour and Facebook gig till you try the patience of even the intellectually challenged teabaggers, and they blow a gasket and start latching on to Mike Huckabee's ass?
I don't like to plan that far ahead. After all, I couldn't even plan to spend 4 years in the Alaska governor's mansion. I may consider running for president if they can change the term to 2 years instead of a long 4 years. I urge my Tea Party brethren to call their representatives and demand they change the Constitution so I can serve as president. I may serve 2 terms of 2 years, but not 1 term of 4 years.
One of your more stunning blunders was the interview you did with Katie Couric. The most glaringly clueless quote of the disturbing interview was, "As Putin rears his head and comes into the airspace of the United States of America, where do they go? It's Alaska. It's just right over the border." Can you now admit that you were completely unprepared to be vice president of a Rotary Club, let alone the vice president of the United States?
Jerry, not only do I stand fully behind that quote, I want you to know that Russia is across the border of Alaska, and at any moment we could be infiltrated by Russian spies that want our oil, and seals, and even our Mount McKinley. What would the United States do if the Russians overtook Mount McKinley? That would be a strategic outlook from where the Russians could plan to take the rest of North America. And during my watch as Alaska's governor, there was no Russian attempt to invade and capture Mount McKinley. I'm for America, its seals and its mountains.
Your ignorance of international matters is upstaged only by your complete lack of knowledge about domestic affairs. Case in point is the following quote you gave ABC News on July 7, 2009. "I think on a national level, your Department of Law, there, in the White House, would look at some of the things that we've been charged with and automatically throw them out." Do you believe in your twisted, distorted way that, as president, you would be above the law and the Constitution? And where the hell did you come up with the Department of Law? I'd call you a bird brain, but I don't want to insult birds.
What I meant, and that's why as president I would replace the liberal media with the teabag media, was that I would create the Department of Law, which would do legal things that I tell it to do. It would have justice for everyone that agrees with me as Americans, but it would not be lawful for illegal immigrants. I would legally be above the law, since I created a Department of Law, which would be what I am. This concept of executive monarchy is all in my new book, Glowing Rouge.
Your understanding of American history can be measured in a thimble. Do you have an explanation for this following answer you gave to a 2006 Alaska gubernatorial race questionnaire? Question: Are you offended by the phrase, "under God," in the Pledge of Allegiance? Why or why not? Your answer: not on your life. If it was good enough for the Founding Fathers, it's good enough for me, and I'll fight in defense of our Pledge of Allegiance. Are you aware that the Pledge of Allegiance was written in 1892, over 100 years after the founding of the country, and that, "under God," was added officially in 1954? Were you kidding about the answer you gave, Or were you juiced on Jack Daniels, or zoned out on Quaaludes?
My answer came from my heart, Carrie, not some stupid history book written by some liberal, socialist, author who teaches our children what's wrong with America and the American way. My America is young, and it believes in God and pledges. Who cares about what happened over 300 years ago, when we have problems now, that require a pledge of allegiance that's today, not in the past? I will rule a young, strong, military America that is with God and pledges and oil.
I need to slam a couple shots of Old Granddad 150 before my brain explodes from all this illogical nonsense. But stay tuned and we'll return shortly with more of my insightful interview with the killer from Vasilla, blonder woman, Sarah Palin.